Peace, everybody. Whoever's on here, we're gonna get started here in just a minute. Let's let a few more people get in so they'll know what we're talking about. Just to give you an FYI, we're going to talk about briefly the Bill Cosby trial. And a little bit about this Meek Mill guy. But I didn't want to put that as the title of the video, because when I put it up, those types of titles attract a lot of bottom feeders. Peace, brother Marcus. So I have to avoid putting up those clickbait titles. You get a bunch of like that little character on Flintstones used to come on and say, you get a bunch of dum-dums. Hello, dum-dum. The little alien used to come on Flintstones sometimes. Hello, dum-dum. You get a bunch of the dum-dums when you put up those types of titles. So we'll call this All Roads Lead to Philadelphia. And this is the real news. So we're not going to go all the way into this today. This is just a little brief conversation. But the in-depth understanding of what's going on, you'll be able to find at mastersofthecosmos.com. You can, as an adept member, you'll be able to get the full breakdown of where we at. What's the cycle? Talked about the other day. Flight 1380 was going from New York to Dallas, and there was an emergency landing in where? Philadelphia. Super Bowl 52. An unlikely champion takes the throne. It is Philadelphia Eagles. After the previous year, the Super Bowl is won by the Patriots in Houston, Texas. Houston then becomes the champions of the World Series. Bless you, baby. And all these things have symbolic meaning to them. All of your sports are used to carry out symbolic messages and um, let's say rituals that are meant to speak to not just your subconscious mind individually, but if we would say a collective subconscious mind, to attempt to cement a reality that is not organic. See, there's only one way that this story is supposed to come to an end. Now, mind you, the story comes to an end so another one can start. But we're talking about the particular story that we're in right now. There's only one way that it ends. Now, what this new story is going to be, you know, that's yet to be seen. You know, it'd be egotistical of me to try to sit here and say I know for sure what the next story is going to be. But what I do know with assuredness is that there's another story. And the only way to go on to that new story is to end this one that we're in, or to end this chapter. Okay? So that we can go on to the next chapter. So however, whichever metaphor you want to use. So we know that for sure. Another thing we know for sure is that imagine you're reading a story and all the characters have been created by the storyteller. Okay? But imagine that the original characters that were created from the creator's mind, that they're the main heroes and heroines of the story, and that in the end the story's already been written that they will be standing triumphant. Okay? Imagine if one of the characters who was created gains a degree of consciousness, of understanding. Peace, Almighty. That's I'm not gonna try to read your name because I'm driving, but peace. I had to come back and catch your name here when I'm in a safer position. Imagine the characters who were created and who weren't even created at the beginning of the story. Imagine the creator, as it went along, decided to add in some characters to just be antagonists to the main characters, the heroes and heroines. See, every story, good story, has an antagonist. Okay, it has a plot that the main character or characters have to go through to fulfill the storyline. They have to go through these travails. They have to go through these ups and downs. That's what builds the story. Well, imagine if the characters who were created somewhere along the story became conscious of themselves and decided that they did not want to allow the story to complete itself the way it was written. And in the middle of the story, they decided, we're going to try to write a story within a story. Now, what I'm giving you an analogy of, or what I'm metaphorically speaking of, is creation. And we're talking about in the middle of the story, where the story is starting to reach its climax, its crescendo. We have the antithesis is trying to write a whole different spin-off from the original story. And you know what the spin-off is? It's called artificial intelligence. It's called virtual reality. It's called augmented reality. It's called the Internet of Things. Go on and on and on. Okay? So when we take just that little brief introduction and we now apply it to Bill Cosby, any other thing you want to discuss, then we get a whole different perspective. So, I told you, well, I'll come back to that. Let's go back to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 52. Philadelphia Eagles win. And we're wondering, what's the significance of Philadelphia? Because all these things are already predetermined. Okay? Well, and that's another discussion to have about how it leads up to Philadelphia, because you got to go back to Houston, the city of Houston. You got to go back to the halftime fiasco that occurs with Lady Gaga. She's the widow, the spider who comes floating into the stadium, but she also plays the role of the seed, and it was in the city of Houston. Seed coincides with stone, Houston. Okay, that was the planting of the seed. Then this past Super Bowl, we see which is supposed to be the seed gestating, because now we're in a place, or it's not in a place, but it's won by a place that hails from Philadelphia. Now we're told in one etymological breakdown that Philadelphia, Phila is love. Phila is love. Now, it means womb. So how can Adelphi and Delph be one tell us that it's brother and the other mean womb? And there, my friends, is where you uncover a great secret. See, etymology, there's an art to using etymology. Some people get hung up on just looking up words, and they find an etymology and they take that as the gospel. Etymology is just a tool to lead you back to symbolic understanding of language. Symbols are milieus of archetypes. An archetype would be the most original idea or thought. A symbol would be a conglomeration of ideas. Symbols then will further fracture into words, languages. Okay? So if you're going to study etymology, you can't stop at just, oh, well, this is the etymology of that word, so this is what it that's just you still cannot subdue your right brain. I'm not subdue, but handicap or render your right brain as null and void. You have to still use it, because your etymology is going to lead you back to a symbol. So then, how does that apply to this? Delphi. One says it means brother, and the other says basically mother. How can it be the brother and the mother? Because the womb can only come with the mother, right? Common sense. Oh, now I want to see if anybody is catching where I'm going. Is anybody catching where I'm going? How can Delphi or Delpha, how can it relate or coincide with brother and mother? How? How? All right, stay in your lane. Anybody want to take a crack at that? It's very simple. It's very simple. I'll tell you. I was going to save this, but we're going to go ahead and we'll just touch on it. Because what it means is Mason. That's the secret of the word. Let's just take the suffix Delphi. Adelph. If it's brother and it's womb, it's not for us to decide which one is right or wrong. It's for us to understand what they are leading us to. Mason. Ma, son. Mother and the son. Okay? So, we start in Houston. We end up in Philadelphia. You can figure out that part on your own. Now, we then move forward and we see that one of Philadelphia's native sons is put on trial. William Cosby. Now there's always been something special about Bill Cosby for me. One, because he was born the same year as my father, and I think they were born in the same month. So when I learned that, I always, it's like, wow, so he's literally from my father's era. My father would have been 80 this year. But we look at Bill Cosby, and it's a very interesting situation. Now, one, I have to give credit to where I get things, all right? Because I hate when people, try to take my shit and then, run with it and don't give any credit, I like to cite my sources. So I was listening to, I'm sure a lot of y'all probably know of him, this guy Nasir Ra. And one thing he said, he didn't take it all the way where I thought he was going to go, but he did touch on something that was profound. And I think he said his wife made this connection about Bill Cosby and Generation X. And I thought that was some profound stuff right there. Take out Cosby and put the X right there. That's what Bill Cosby, what he did with the Cosby Show, that was for Generation X. And he kind of expounded on that, but I want to take it a little further. But I do think that was profound right there between him and his wife. That was, I would say, a major breakthrough. If people have ears to hear and eyes to see, and take the ball on the rest of the way to the touchdown, to see the whole big picture here. We'll say this. Some of this, to get the meat and potatoes, you're going to have to go and get on the back end of the website to really get a full breakdown. So I can't do it driving, and that's just what the folk get who support. But we'll say this. I've been I've been saying for the longest that most of us melanated people, one of the greatest tragedies is that we still, our minds, we allow our minds to be trapped into a certain paradigm and we get stuck. What I mean is that things move on and we're not able sometimes, or we're not willing. Let's use the correct word. It's the difference between being willing and able. You're able to do anything. Willing to stretch our minds and to keep pushing ahead. I've said that when Star Trek came out and several other shows and publications and things, but let's use Star Trek as the big iconic series that starts in 1966. Now, when I first said this, I wasn't even thinking about this, but when you own it and you find the truth, stuff comes later on to confirm it. Okay? Well, here's the deal. Generation X is said to have began it's said that it began, I should say, in 1965. 1965. Ain't that ironic? 1965. And Generation X, of course, comes after the baby boomer generation, which we would say is that's my mother's generation, 1945 to 1965, roughly, is your baby boomer. The baby boom talks about the boom in childbirth after World War II. That's why it's called the baby boomer generation. Now, so in 65, they call that generation the beginning of Generation X. Now, you may say that's nothing more than a label, so what? Well, people who are in the know and who have the, what's the word I'm looking for? The wherewithal to maneuver our reality. They don't do things just for happenstance. Okay? So when they put that label out, it's not just to say, well, what can we call them? Let's call them whatever. No, it's because they're giving you, they tell you the truth. It's just that you don't pay enough attention and catch it. Those who don't, not you, but those who can't or who don't pay attention. So when they say Generation X, you got to stop and think about what all does an X represent. X in the algebraic equation represents the unknown. X represents the female chromosome. X chromosome. X represents the cross. The crossing over. Generation X. Now, Generation X is my generation. I'm born in 77. So Generation X is said to go from 1965 until roughly 1984. That's Generation X. The unknown. This is the generation that really, develops. We're not going to say creates, but develops hip hop. They call it the generation of slackers. We can go on and on. If you get a moment, go back and look at some of the stuff that was said about Generation X, in the 80s and 90s and so forth. This generation that doesn't have a clue, doesn't have any direction. So, The Cosby Show was an iconic show for Generation X. Okay? It showed us a black family that were full of successful people. It was a two-parent home. It was uh, both professionals. Uh, the children went to college. Then they came and gave us another show called A Different World that was all about college. And I wasn't fortunate enough to go to a historically black college, but I must say, watching that, it made me excited about, man, what is the world like at a black college? You know, what is it like at a Howard, you know, or, Southern University? So that was magical in itself, we have to say. And Brother Nazir touched on that. Um, now, I was upset with Bill Cosby when he went on this tyrant going around the country talking about black people need to quit whining and complaining and pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That old rhetoric. And I'm like, hold on. I mean, if you want to take that line, do it off camera, you know. But as I sit and really look at the whole situation, and I look at what happened when he tried to buy NBC, strangely, a little while later, his son is dead. We don't know what all these people, how many threats are carried out or given, and they know they'll be carried out, on families and so forth, where they have to take certain stances and they have to promote certain agendas. So there's a whole world we don't know that exists, in that realm and so forth. Not to make any excuses. It's just a thing of the more enlightened we become, the less emotionally attached we are to people, especially a so-called celebrity on that level. But the work, even with him going on that tirade, about what black people need to be doing and this and that, it did not negate the significance of the Cosby Show and then A Different World. I mean, we can't dismiss it. We can't dismiss the powerful images that were put out. I mean, at the time that the Cosby Show comes out, we're at the tail end of the Reagan administration, which was integral in creating the idea of a ghetto, integral in planting a new drug called crack cocaine. I mean, that's documented. So, if nothing else, that Cosby Show gave us some type of balance from what we saw every night on the news about people getting shot in major cities. They show the inner city trash, graffiti, and dirty subways, and so forth. Rap was presented as this fringe music. It was not accepted at the time. So we take all that into account, all right, when we look at Bill Cosby. In the Catholic Bible, you will find a story in the book of Judith about a general of Nebuchadnezzar named Holofernes. And Holofernes is, what the hell do I want to turn? Holofernes is beheaded by a woman named Judith. Okay? What's the significance of that? Well, Bill Cosby was used as the figurehead to really launch this whole Me Too movement. Now, everything is done based on symbolism. You get on the back end, we'll break down what Me Too really means from a Hebraic standpoint, uh, dealing with etymology. We're going to show you what Me Too really means. But he's used as a figurehead, and notice I say head. And just like Holofernes had to lose his head, what was being done with Bill Cosby was a symbolic castration and decapitation. We're talking both about heads, okay? Chopped off. Now, there's a whole lot of metaphorical, metaphysical, occult significance to the beheading. The beheading is not all bad. The beheading is something that is necessary, okay? It's necessary to work and to activate a desired reality, to bring what is desired into reality. Let me say it that way. All right? So think about that. Then we have this dude named Meek Mill. I might have heard a clip of him rapping here or there, but I don't really know his music. But I hear something about this guy getting released from prison early, and I hear about him going and ringing the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, and at that moment, my spidey senses are going off. Now, mind you, let's look at the timeline. This is before Bill Cosby's verdict comes down. Then first of all, before even that, we had this Flight 1380 from New York to Dallas, has this emergency landing in Philadelphia, okay? And then a little later, we hear about this Meek Mill guy. Oh, Meek Mill getting out of prison. Now, when I hear about him getting out early and this Liberty Bell ringing, like I said, spidey senses are going off. Second thing sends off my spidey senses is I hear about all these different celebrities are coming out the woodworks to congratulate Meek Mill on coming home. All these rappers, and then what takes the cake is what's his name? Bob Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots. Now, you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to not see, okay, there's rotten in the cotton now. Now, what in the world with this GMO food producing secret society elitist care about a gangster rapper coming home from prison? Now, everybody's spidey sense is supposed to go up off of that one. And then a little later, now mind you, this same guy, Bob Kraft, his team was in the biggest sports event of the year against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they lost. And that game was so strange. It was so blatant that game, Eagles had to win that game. All right. A few days later, Bill Cosby is found guilty of, I don't know if it was safe. I'm sitting, and this is how things just come and fall in my lap. I turn on NBC, got the TV in my lap, turn on NBC. drinking my coffee. And they got this woman who's she's on the Roseanne show. She's the lady who plays Roseanne's sister on the show. They're talking about her. And as their whose daughter just passed? Oh, that's Gwen Starr. Okay, what's up, Gwen? Um, oh, I didn't know that. His daughter just passed. That's very interesting too. Hmm, very strange. Well, I have to look into that. So this morning, that's very strange. This morning, on there they have the woman that plays Roseanne's sister on the show, and she's on there talking. And first, let's go back as the show, the introduction, the intro of the show comes on. One of the pictures they flash is this Meek Mill guy. And I'm like, hold up now. This is damn your prestigious Today Show weekend edition with Meek Mills. Okay. Anyway, they put this woman on, and they talk about this show that she's in on Broadway, and the show is called Three Tall Women. Now look, check this out. And then they put on, I turned the television to CBS, and on CBS I try to catch Sunday morning sometimes on CBS. You know, my old man used to watch Sunday morning every Sunday when we were little with Charles Kurot. This morning they have Janelle Monáe on the show, and she's on there talking, and they got showing her back at her home in Kansas City and sitting around with her matriarch and her aunts and things, and they're all around the piano singing. Oh, it's such a feel-good story. And then they talk about, oh man, I wish I had written the movie down. The movie came out in 2016. God, what's that movie? Oh man, that she was in. Somebody please help me out. There's a movie came out in 2016. On the cover, there's 3 black women. Janelle Monáe was in the movie. Damn. I wrote it down at the house, I think. It's either way, the point is this. Nothing just happens. On NBC, they have Hidden Figures. Good looking out, KDA. That's it. Hidden Figures. Listen to this. NBC has this woman on off of Roseanne who's in a Broadway show called Three Tall Women. You go over to CBS and they've got Janelle Monáe, and they segue into talking about her acting, and they talk about her in this movie Hidden Figures with 3 black women on the cover. I'll tell you what this is all about. If you study metaphysics, you should know about a concept called the triple goddess, or even the trimertic Godhead, or good old Phi Beta Baptist Christians ought to know about the Trinity. But either way, you see that trine or 3-headed God energy. Okay? Well, there's specifically they made a specific reference to the triple goddess. Triple goddess. Triple goddess is represented in several different ways across different cultures and disciplines. Same basic idea though. Now, you got to put all these pieces together. Philadelphia is talking about the womb. Okay? And in this womb, when you have sex, that's why I said it's not all bad. For life to be created, that man has to be beheaded. The beheading of the man is the ejaculation. And the womb beheads him. But when he's headed, a seed is planted. Now, so Bill Cosby's role in the drama is to be Holofernes or John the Baptist, beheaded. And then you come back and show the supremacy of the triple goddess. Now, see, this is how these people play. This why you got to study to know what's going on. To know you can't just diss everything. This is the high end stuff right here. This is the Neiman Marcus metaphysics right here. This is the high stakes game. All the stuff people talking about, no, metaphysics is what it's all about. That's what it comes down to. Magic, baby. It ain't about money. They moving money around. They're moving money just to get position. But what are they shooting for? They're working the magic because they need something. They need a doorway. They need an interface. Okay, that's why they would go to these limbs. That's why they have to acquire the money to be able to control media, to control sports, to control music, to control government, all different aspects, because that they are looking for a vehicle to get access to something that they ain't got. With all those resources, they still don't have a trump card. No pun intended. So, where was I? Cosby's the phallus that has to be beheaded. And then what they do is they take something that is really divine, they sully it. So that triple goddess is a divine concept. Okay? Well, this is what they do. They sully it, taking it and representing, basically they represent the triple goddess thing concept as them. It's like a never-ending Halloween, where you go and dress up in a costume and you assume the role of something. Oh, I'm Batman. I'm dressed up as Superman for Halloween, but you're not really Superman, not really Batman. You're just wearing a costume. You see what I'm saying? So that's the purpose of this. So then I wrote something. Honor me to dishonor me. You think harming me is harmony, and that's the way that when they honor you, they are dishonoring you. When they put this black woman as the chief of police in Dallas, that was not an honor, that was a dishonor. On the deeper level, they were looking for somebody to be the figurehead of carrying out and when they put Janelle Monáe on this mark, and it looks so beautiful, it's like, man, a human emotional side of me is, yeah, man, she's over some things and blah 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 and but what we're really doing is use her to dishonor what she's supposed to represent. She's supposed to represent a certain energy. And the energy that she represents is actually an opposing energy to the people who were lauding her. And they made sure during that interview they had to just briefly make an ass out of her daddy. They had to just a little bit, a sprinkle in a little bit that the daddy drug problem. See what I'm saying? They work, man, some diabolical. And it's like my brother Bobby used to say, why is it that people who have all influence and money and resources, why would they still always need to make the image of black people look as something decrepit? They are perpetually at war with especially the black in America. What do they know? And let's just go ahead and let's just tell it like it is. Because I did a video about deism. So we don't stop just they. Put a particular group, I'm going to say, Khazars, because they're not Jews. Because those Jews are the real Yahudi. This is why I say, you can cut through all the argument. Moors arguing with Hebrews. You can cut through all that because all of us are saying, because yeah, you're right, children of Israel. Because there's no way that you can run Hollywood, run the fashion industry. Oh shit, my shit freeze up. That you can run, I'm gonna keep going. That you can run music, real estate, everything there is to control resources, and you still be okay. Good, you can still hear me, and you can still call yourself the downtrodden. You can call yourself those who are suffering. Where's the suffering? So only right that the Yahudi are actually right here in the West. So it's amazing that they always go